Welcome back, everybody. I am Jay Rosenthal. That is Jeremy Burke. In the middle is Christine Apple. It is New Year's. I guess it's 2026. Right. Uh, sorry. And I can't. There. Sorry, everybody.
You're
Give me
good.
1 sec, or I won't be able to do this. This is embarrassing. Hearing myself on another channel, which never works out well. There we go. I swear we're usually more pro than this, but it is New Year's, and so I'm giving myself a little bit of grace since this is the first one we've done. Last we saw you, it was Jeremy and I and our friends, actually Anna Ray Grabstein, Ben, and Mark Hauser to end the year on December 19th. We talked about what was to come. It was the same week as a major announcement, so this is a good way to kick it off. Christine, I showed you this before we went live, and I wasn't bullshitting you. I didn't go buy these because I knew you were going to be on, but these are all over our house. These are the pearls. They are the CBG THC blue raspberry. To my mind, they're the only gummies that are selling in Canada. I'm sure someone's going to comment and say, no, of course not. But these ones are selling particularly well, especially among the set of people that I run with. So thank you for those. But you're here today not only to talk about my consumption habits, but about a deal you guys struck with Wyld. I mean, super timely. First news of the year. Give us a little bit of a breakdown to sort of what led to it and what it means for you and Grön in particular.
Yeah, so thanks. I just want to start off by saying thanks so much for having me on today. It's really great to talk to you guys. Yeah, so Grön is an Oregon-based company. Wyld is an Oregon-based company. We started off in the industry in the same time. It's almost like we've grew up together. We kind of did, honestly, really came back from early medical days in Oregon. So, I don't think this was ever something that we planned. We've been competitors in the same arena for many, many years, 10, 11 years. And it was really only this year, maybe 6 months ago, that I think both companies were really looking at what's next. How do we continue to grow and evolve? There's only so many states that you can open before you run out of states. And there's a few big ones left, but they're not turning anytime soon. So we're all looking at things, and Wyld has a much larger national platform than Grön. So they were looking at how they're going to continue to grow in their existing markets. We were at a place where we're looking, how are we going to grow in some of these mature, saturated existing markets, such as California, Colorado, Washington, and what does that look like for us? And so I think that kind of the symbiotic relationship of what makes sense for both of these companies. They've got a real channel to just blow us up in these markets. There's, it's like the products that we make are similar, and you may say an edible company buying an edible company, what does that look like? I think there's a lot of thought that was put into this, so the brands remain the brands that they are and don't just merge into one thing. It's been a very thoughtful, respectful process. And I couldn't be more excited about what's to come for Grön and also for the Wyld empire that's being built.
I like the Wyld empire. Jeremy, if I could just share one thing that was actually in our newsletter today from our partners and friends at Little Alerts, and you said what it means sort of in some of these states. This is the New York market in particular. It's sort of both share of sales, share of units, and share of shelf. And the combined Wyld and Grön together sort of become first. And in this market, this is that's the first graph. This is the second. This is New Jersey. So certainly in these East Coast markets, it becomes, I mean, everybody was doing great anyway, but together it really becomes a Wyld, what do you call it? A Wyld empire? I like that.
Yes. Yeah.
A Wyld empire. Go ahead, Jer.
Yeah, Christine, I wanted to ask you, I'm always interested in how these deals come about. And you said, you and Wyld started around the same time. So you're going sort of from competitors to now building together. How did the deal come about? Like, who started talking to who? How did it become a good idea? I'd sort of love to hear that broad frame and how, you stuck the pieces together.
It's funny because Aaron and I, we live in the same town. I could bike to his house from mine. And we never met in person until this year. So we've operated in the same circle
Right.
really as competitive. We've had employees that have crossed between companies. I mean, it's our companies are very similar. The values are very similar. There's something about coming out of Oregon in this small little industry that just gives us a lot in common. But we hadn't met until this year. Seth Yakuton actually introduced Draper and Aaron, I think over a text, and they Draper's the president of Grön, and they met for coffee, and Draper came back to me and said, "I have a wild idea. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but hear me out." And my initial thought was, hell no, like, are you out of your mind? There's no way this.
Right.
And I slept on it and thought about it, and I was like, there's really might be something here. And so we just started talking, and it was slow, and it really was careful and thoughtful. Wyld is and Aaron particularly are very deliberate in the decisions and calculated in a meaningful way about how he goes about things. And I have a lot, just mad respect for how he has built his company. And yeah, so this is not something that was hastily put together. And it's been a process where for our teams to get used to this and understand over the past month is when we started announcing it to our teams, the past month or two internally. And everybody is really excited. So it's a really good thing.
Can I ask another question? Because you said at the beginning, an edibles company and an edibles company joining forces or getting
Yeah.
acquired, but that
Yeah.
happens in every other industry. Like I think people
Yeah.
it's like that can't possibly happen. But then you look at like the numbers of companies that like a Pepsi or a Coke or
Yeah.
I mean, not saying that that's what's happening in cannabis, but it happens in every other industry. Microbrews acquire other microbrews because the brand, and I think that's what I want to sort of focus on because the brands you both have developed are, I mean, best in class certainly, and I guess what do you attribute that to? Is it time in market? Is it great positioning? Is it ingredients and flavor and consistency? Like, or is it all those things wrapped up that it just takes time to sort of take hold? Because for a long time, even on the Canadian front and the U.S. front, like we're just going to grow the most cannabis and that's going to win. Like it just that hasn't been the case generally. In fact, it's almost been the opposite of that. But talk about sort of the brand forward nature of both businesses and how that has differentiated you both in markets.
Yeah, I mean, one piece, and I don't attribute this to me, or to him specifically, but we're both very engaged founders that have stayed engaged in these brands. So my identity, my personal identity, is looped into Grön in a way, in a meaningful, direct way, for the past 11 years that I have been solely focused on growing this brand, creating it, and I've used the analogy in a lot of speeches that I've done that brands are like babies. They're really easy to make and they're really hard to grow up into maturity, right? They're really fun.
It's
The
really
making
good.
them is
Yeah.
fun. The growing them into good adults is really hard, and it takes about that long. So it's a long process of growing a brand, and it goes through an awkward teenager stage. It goes through all these crazy stages. Um and that's that. I think we both Grön and Wyld have stayed true to their identity. Grön has shed its skin multiple times, where Wyld has been much more stable in its identity. We've continued to grow and change and come out with new products, and it's how we've dominated markets that we've come in, and we've had different paths, but that is a commonality that the two brands share, is a true commitment. Wyld is nature focused. They're really true to what they are. The packaging, their commitment to sustainability, their commitment to true fruit flavors, their commitment to really their core values. Without Grön is fun and fruit forward, and it's can be cheeky at times. And we've got a single serve, and we've got chocolate, and we do LTOs, and so they're different, and remarkably, these two brands, as you look at it, and the amount of market share that we together own in the market is remarkable. We don't eat each other's market share. We don't. When the two brands are on shelves, we actually grow the category. And that is what I think combined sold it to me in a way that this can really work. And that's not just one market we're seeing that. We've seen it in Ohio, we've seen it in New Jersey. We'll see it in Pennsylvania when Wyld comes in there very shortly, and in Oregon, in our home state. So we're not eating each other's. We are just continuing to grow the industry, grow the category.
Yeah, Christine, I want to drill in on that because I think that's one of my questions, and it's a really interesting point. Often when you see, as Jay mentioned, a microbrewery acquire a microbrewery, there's an element of cannibalization, right? Where the
Yeah.
products are similar and, maybe consumers get confused or they're easily substituted. So on that marketing front, like what data did you see that was very clear that made, this a bigger market together rather than, siphoning off pieces of the same market? Because I think that's a really interesting question and interesting part of this deal.
Yeah, I mean, add to all the data that's coming in that we're seeing, and Oregon is a great example of that, and even internally to us, where I started to see this initially was 2019 when we came out with a mega. It was the single serve gummy that we have, and Samuel Sung, who was our chief revenue officer at the time, he was our director of sales, came to me and said, "I have an idea. We need to do a single serve gummy. There's a customer out there that we're not touching. The market was saturated in Oregon. He's like, give me a shot. Just let me do this." And I said, "No way. It's gonna just destroy the company because no one's gonna buy our high margin products. They're just gonna want to buy the lower cost items." That did not happen. He was 100% right. What it did was it brought in a different customer, and so the company grew much bigger. And so Wyld and Grön, they have loyal customers. They do, but they're not fighting for the same customers. Sometimes people buy both of our products, but they're different products. They're touching different customers. And I don't think it's really any different than Coke and Pepsi, or Sprite and Mountain Dew. People, they're out there, and there is enough consumer base to have different brands out there, and people want choice. So yeah.
Can I ask a question, almost taking that answer and looking ahead, because you talked about sort of the Wyld platform and sort of what both of you bring to the table. Thinking about the brands that you have, the brands that they have, and the experience that you've had over 10 years in so many markets, like how does innovation work between the two companies going forward? I don't want you to predict the future, but is it like, are you more nimble, able to capture more market share in some niches that neither one of you are in now, right? Is it sort of together you can see the world differently than you could separately and just create faster, more nimbly, and go after more and more? Like, is there a huge opportunity that neither one of you are touching right now that together you might be able to?
I think we both believe that. We'll see. It's hard to, if there's one thing we all know in cannabis, the best laid plans nothing goes according to plan. Nothing does ever. So it's you can plan all you want. You plan, you prepare, and then you go for it. But that's the intention. And I mean, Wyld, I think, has the best distribution platform in the country. They really do. They're moving product in 16 states and Canada at a massive volume. And their ability to put us into 4 large markets that we're not currently in is massive. So, right now, I would say for 2026, our plan, Grön's plan, my plan with my team, is to stay laser focused on the markets that we're operating in, continuing to support, continuing to do what we do best as the brand that we are. While sorry, I may sneeze here in a minute. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Excuse me. I'm so
Bless
sorry.
you.
Thank you. While as we look for low-hanging fruit to be able to, are there for example, in New York, can we share a distribution hub in upstate New York where we're able to better service that state with both facilities being down and on Long Island, right? Like, those are low-hanging fruit that we're able to look at. How can we better serve customers immediately, while we really thoughtfully look at how to best integrate these companies and expand into new markets. But yeah, that's the plan, is ultimately to bring this across. And Aaron has a big vision for what he wants to do in this industry, and it's great.
Let me ask sort of the big frame question, and not to sound like an airport self-help book, but being a founder and entrepreneur is a winding, zigzagging path. 11 years ago when you started Grön, did you think you'd be sitting here in 2026 with an acquisition, or what did the world look like to you 11 years ago, and how is that a little bit different looking back?
I started this 11 years ago with a baby on my hip in my home kitchen. And it was a side quest. This was not the plan. I didn't have a business plan. I did this out of love. I share my love by giving, and I love to cook, and I love to make things. And that there was it was the early medical days in cannabis and in Oregon, and it was a lot of high dose stuff, and I wasn't a high dose person, and I just started playing and dinking around with chocolate, and it kind of took a life of its own. And so I'm so humbled and appreciative of how this is. I mean, in a million years, right? Like, and there's this isn't luck. This isn't luck. This is hard work and determination. But I think the greatest thing that I mean, I came up with a brand and I created it, but what I really did was put together the right people to take
Mm,
this forward. And that's what it is. It's the Grün is a community of really amazing human beings that have carried this forward. And um that's what it is. It's a family. Yeah, I did. This is not, in a million years, I could not have
right.
predicted that, in 10 years I will sell the company. This is where it's going to go. But I always thought that at some point when the time is right, I would. I'm 52. My children deserve some time with me. Um, Before I'm too old. And so at some point, I'm looking forward to a life where I'm not wholly consumed by this company, which that's what it takes. I mean, it takes that level of relentless determination to as an entrepreneur. It's not it's not a 40-hour-a-week job.
No.
Right.
Um,
Right.
can I even zoom out maybe further than Jeremy did with the self-help book in the airport? Although now I guess we know what Jeremy reads when he's flying.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
He spends a lot of time in that aisle at the airport. And it sounds like this was in the works prior to sort of the president's announcement about rescheduling, or the president's announcement about pushing for rescheduling, or pushing the process that already started
Yeah,
for.
something.
However you want to frame that. Like, do you think your deal, I guess, will portend others in the sector, or is the sector just ripe for more consolidation, either of brands or sort of full scale business? Like, what do you think 2026 holds on the deal making front in cannabis, having seen 10 years in the past?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think there's going to be more consolidation. I think we're going to see. I think right now brands are finally if BizCon brand is brands. Everything now is brands, and I think some of that is where we're at. The industry and it as a whole is maturing at a level where brands are able to really have a real presence. But I do think there's going to be more consolidation. I think brands are going to get absorbed by MSOs as brands become more important and continue to grow. We'll 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 see what happens. I think consolidation overall. I think brands are going to continue to be a big presence. I'm going to be honest. I think this deal is really good for the industry. It's good for the category. It's really good for the industry. And overall, this industry deserves some wins, and it deserves to see momentum going forward. And I think this deal represents what that can look like. It's been a long time since we've seen something positive like this. But yes, I do think we're going to see more consolidation, and I think we're going to see some companies fall off. We're going to continue to see that. There's a lot of debt that's still coming due right now. People are trying to figure out how they're going to manage that. I'm thankful that we never had that problem. But yeah,
Well,
that's
exactly what you
consolidation.
said. I think our all mutual friend Anna Ray Grabstein sort of posted on LinkedIn, sort of a shout out to you and to Aaron and to the whole team, and talked a bit about the data that we talked about earlier. Not so much in New York and New Jersey, but the rest of the country. So shout out to Anna Ray Grabstein. Shout out to you and the team, both at Grön and at Wyld.
Thank
I like to
you.
post whatever Anna Ray Grabstein writes.
You know what's interesting about that? If you can go back
Sure,
there for
sure.
1 second, I just want to point this. So we're number 4, but what is amazing about that is that we are not in right now in California,
Right.
Colorado,
Mm,
Washington, or Michigan, and we're currently revamping the deal in Nevada. Those are 5 big U.S. markets right now that we are not in. We're in 8 states right now. So in a number 4 position, if you look at that, Grön is growing we are growing as a company, and we have in 2025 at a 17.5% rate year over year, which is massive for our category. So there's the synergies to be able with this deal to be able to plug Grön into those states with this continued trajectory it's kind of unstoppable. I mean, I believe it's unstoppable, and I think it's a really interesting moment.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's and Jeremy and I were talking about this all over Las Vegas in December, but it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we say this every December and January. Oh my God, the next year is going to be, pivotal for the industry, and I think some of that is like wish casting. But in this case, like what's happening potentially in DC with the hemp conversation sort of full force, and I think a renewed, and I think brands like yours collectively, actually sort of reaching their stride. Like it is a very interesting time to be sort of commenting on the sector for sure, but also for this sort of mode of consolidation and what lies ahead is going to be a pivotal year. We'll look back and this will be an important one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Jared,
I
anything else
love
before
the,
you wrap up?
No, I was just gonna say I love the story of 11 years ago, playing around in the kitchen with a baby on your hip to coming now. I mean, I think Jay and I, like speaking for Cultivated, we want to support founders, entrepreneurs. We have a lot of respect for it, and that's an awesome image and an awesome story. So thanks for joining us, and congratulations on getting it closed.
Thank you. The work's not done. That's what people. We've got a lot of work to do, and this next year is going to be a lot. I am wholly committed from the beginning of this to being the best that we can at everything we do. And right now, our job is to be. Right now, I look at it as to make this integration the best integration this industry has ever seen. These Grön will remain Grön, and we're really excited to carry the torch and to help the industry continue to thrive. So I love this industry. I just have so much faith in the community and what we've built here. It's I love it fiercely. Really proud of it.
We look forward to watching what unfolds, but congratulations and thank you. It's not like you gave them to me, but thank you for these. They've made my life measurably better.
Good.
And lots of other people too. So thank you so much, and we'll connect with you as this unfolds.
All right. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.